Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry here, and welcome back to the Lieutenant series of the GOTEI 13! Woo! I don't know why I made a spooky sound effect there that really had nothing to do with anything. Well, actually, today we are talking about KAIEN SHIBA, as seen right here. He kind of has, like, the center in this entire, like, spread here. You know, there's KAIEN hanging out right there. He's pretty cool. He is the former lieutenant of the 13th Division under Jushiro Ukitake. And, yeah, he's pretty dead right now. Like, really dead. Like, he actually died, and then kind of came back, and then died again. So he's actually, like, super dead right now. He was actually possessed by a hollow named Metastasia, and then Rukia had to run him through with her sword, and then he died, and his body disintegrated and went to Hueco Mundo, and then it was devoured by a giant octopus hollow named Arañero Arurueri, who was one of the Espada, like one of the original Espada before Aizen came, and then made them another Espada, but a weaker Espada, and then after that was able to take control of his body, and then forced to fight Rukia again, so basically fighting her master as like a corpse, and then she had to kill him again, and then Arañero died, so yeah, KAIEN is like 3 times dead right now, so yeah, he's not going to be coming back. So I guess the spooky sound effect was warranted in that context. Ooh! So yes, today, talking about KAIEN, the long-lost twin brother of Ichigo. The resemblance is uncanny. It's almost like they are kind of related or something. Oh wait, they are, because, spoiler alert, as we find out in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, Ichigo's father, Isshin, was originally a member of the Shiba clan. His name was Isshin Shiba back when he lived in the Soul Society. Of course, after the whole mess, after coming to the living world, and an Aizen shenanigans, and then the Hollow, and Masaki. When Isshin and Masaki got married, he just took her family name, Kurosaki, so Isshin Kurosaki. But back in the day, he was Isshin Shiba. He was a member of the branch family of the Shiba clan, so he wasn't like part of the main family. He wasn't like KAIEN's older brother or KAIEN's dad or anything like that. KAIEN is the eldest brother of Kukaku and Ganju, two characters that we know quite a bit. I believe it was KAIEN that was born first, and then Kukaku, and then Ganju, who is the youngest, right? And so this was back during when the Shiba clan was actually one of the 4 great houses of the Soul Society. Now, currently in the story, the Shiba clan is no longer one of the great houses, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the events revolving around KAIEN's death and what happened with the 13th Division and everything that actually resulted in the Shiba clan losing that status, okay? But Kukaku and Ganju, they live out in the Rukongai, and, you know, Kukaku's the fireworks expert, and they're kind of like, all of the Shiba clan members are, like, really good with Kido. Like, Kukaku's whole thing, we don't know everything that she could utilize, but she was, like, busting out, like, level 60 Kidos at the Sokyoku Hill. Like, she showed up with Raikoho. Remember that when she showed up with Jidambo? That was an awesome scene. Ganju's got that really unique Kido. That's the Seppa, the Stone Wave, you know, become sand now! So they got some interesting techniques in the Shiba clan repertoire. But I would say KAIEN, from the members that we've seen so far, it's Isshin and KAIEN that were the strongest. I'm sure there's some other really badass members of the Shiba clan out there we've just never gotten to meet yet. But yeah, so Isshin, in terms of family relation, I don't think it's ever been directly, like, we've never, like, Kubo has never given us, like, a family tree of the Shiba clan to really piece all this together. I believe there was one scene in the manga when, it was during the Thousand Year Blood War arc, when Kukaku said, you know, oh, we have to let Ganju go because Uncle will be sad or something like that, implying, I think, that Isshin was Kukaku, KAIEN, and Ganju's uncle. But you also have to remember translations are a thing, and also in Japanese, there's a lot of honorifics that you could give that sound like family members, but they don't necessarily have to be, like, blood-related or not related in that way. Like, the most common one is, like, Ni-san. Like, Ni means, like, older brother or brother, but you can use Ni-san for other people that aren't, like, your actual blood brother, okay? So there's something like that, too, you have to kind of keep in mind there. But at any rate, I just go with my headcanon that Isshin was a part of the branch family, so, like, he was KAIEN's uncle. So, like, KAIEN's dad's brother was Isshin, you know, and that's, like, the branch family of the Shiba clan, right? It was just never fleshed out all too much there, right? But anyway, that would make Ichigo and KAIEN cousins, I guess, and that's the reason why they have the family resemblance. Pretty much, it's Ichigo, except with slightly longer hair, kind of like Dangai Ichigo. Kind of like Dangai Ichigo, and then just black hair is basically KAIEN's design, okay? And KAIEN's personality is slightly different from Ichigo. He was was a little bit more kind of in the teasing stuff with Rukia and everything. And when he was the lieutenant, he kind of had this kind of attitude of just like, hey, I'm KAIEN SHIBA. I'm the lieutenant of Squad 13, but, you know, our captain is sick a lot of times, so if you want to call me captain, well, I certainly won't be averse to that. You know, so you kind of, maybe a little bit of arrogance there, but not really so much. KAIEN is all around a pretty nice dude, right? And a lot of times he was just like joking around and stuff. It was actually kind of refreshing for Rukia when she joined, because, you know, Rukia's whole thing was she got brought into the Kuchiki clan, and she didn't really even understand why, because Byakuya never told her, oh, by the way, I'm accepting you into our clan because your older sister was my wife, and she died. But I'm not going to tell you any of that stuff. And in fact, I think Hisana, Rukia's older sister, even said to Byakuya, like, don't tell Rukia about what's going on. Just make sure you find her and make sure she's safe. Which basically translates to Byakuya, all right, I'll accept her into our family, but I'll just, like, disregard her and not really pay attention to her at all. You know, that's the older brother. That's I'm sure. Like, you know, there's other ways you could have done this, Byakuya. It's like, okay, I'm not going to tell her that Hisana was, you know, her older sister, because I think Hisana was afraid that she would think that, you know, like, that Rukia would think Hisana, like, abandoned her or something. But there's other ways you could have handled this, right? But at any rate, Rukia got into the Kuchiki clan, and everybody at the academy kind of looked at her very differently, because it's like, oh, she's a noble now. What's up with this? She was living out in, like, District 78 of Rukangai, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of the highest nobles of all of the Soul Society of the Seirete and the 6th Division captain show up and recruit her and just accept her into the Kuchiki clan, one of the 4 noble houses. This is weird, right? So even like Renji and a lot of other people didn't really know how to handle that during the academy days, and Rukia felt very, very isolated. But then finally, when she graduated and she was accepted into joining one of the 13 Court Guard squads, she got brought into the 13th Division. She's sitting there kind of like in a room, kind of waiting for her like orientation, waiting for like the lieutenant to come in and like give her her duties and stuff that she's going to be doing in the division, like what the division is all about. There's like people like talking about her in the hallway, like she can hear it. And she's like, guess this place will be just the same as at the academy. Everybody's going to be whispering about me behind my back. And she just felt like there's like nobody she could really talk to. And then KAIEN out of nowhere is just like, hey, what are you guys doing in the hallway gossiping? This isn't the gossip center. This is the GOTEI. Get out of here. And then KAIEN bursts in and he's like, hey, how you doing, Rukia? I'm KAIEN SHIBA. I'm the lieutenant. Although I'm the captain, basically. You know, Jushiro Ukitake, he's kind of sick. So you don't want to call me the captain. That's cool. And then Rukia's there like, oh, hi. He's like, what kind of greeting was that? I am your lieutenant there. And he grabs her head and just like, hello, KAIEN, how are you, you know, lieutenant? And he's like, hello, KAIEN, how are you, sir? Yeah, there we go, good. Anyway, it's cool here, Rukia. Welcome to the 13th Division. We're pretty chill here, as you could probably see by my demeanor. But yeah, just, you know, don't get killed alone, don't get slaughtered by hollows, and, yeah, that's pretty much the only rule we got around here. So, you know, it was a breath of fresh air for Rukia, because like he did not treat her like, you know, well, for one thing, he was also raised as a noble, so he might understand it a little bit better, but also it's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna like gossip behind your back or whatever. Like, I don't care about what's going on, and you know, like what's going on with that. You know, he's just, you're a member of our squad now, okay? You're our teammate. You are my, you know, we're going to fight alongside each other in battle against the Hollows and everything. So, you know, that's what we're here to do. So we're comrades. We're friends, basically. And KAIEN took a liking to Rukia, and they trained together in the Rukongai in the 3rd district a few times. And that's where KAIEN kind of talked about Ukitake's philosophy, but also his philosophy. And it basically boiled down to this. KAIEN was like, look, I'm not gonna go on and on about philosophies and all that stuff, but he was giving Rukia kind of a lecture about how the cycle of things worked. And this was actually really cool, because this was also one of the first times in the series I think the fan base really learned about how all this stuff works. And it's like, you know, when you die in the living world, you come to the Soul Society. But what happens when you die in the Soul Society? Well, your body is essentially just made up of Ryatsu, you know, when you're in the Soul Society. So when you die, your physical body in the Soul Society disintegrates, and it helps to maintain the actual boundaries of the world itself. Like, you know, you literally become the trees and the rocks and the grass and the water when you die as a Shinigami in the Soul Society, right? And, you know, you talk about your soul, that how the soul goes back, and it's like this perpetual reincarnation. But then he also brings up the heart. Is like, there's your physical body, which disintegrates, and then there's your soul, which is reincarnated, but your heart stays with your comrades. So that's why KAIEN's philosophy was never die alone. That is the one thing we will not stand for in the 13th Division. You cannot die alone. Because if you die alone, then you can't entrust your heart with anyone around you, so you have to die with a comrade. It's kind of a little bit messed up, but also, it makes sense. I understand where KAIEN's going through here, but I'm just saying, if you ended up as, let's say you end up in the Soul Society one day, and you become a Shinigami, and your lieutenant is like, we only have one rule around here. Change your socks every time we stop. And also, don't die alone. I'd be like, alright, I mean, the sock thing makes sense, but don't die alone. That's, am I planning on dying in here? It's like, well, some of those hollows get pretty damn big, and they can fire giant energy lasers that can disintegrate entire mountains, so it might very well happen. But if you are gonna die, don't die alone, right? And so that was the basic concept there. So KAIEN and Rukia had like a sensei, you know, student kind of relationship. I don't think it went anywhere like the idea of like romantic or anything like that, or how that goes. Although this is coming from me, who's a huge Rukia shipper, and, you know, Ichigo kind of looks a lot like KAIEN. KAIEN was already married, okay? Miyako Shiba was KAIEN's wife, and she was the third seat of the 13th Division. Back then, you can imagine that this whole organization structure was a lot more concrete. Jushiro was the captain, KAIEN was lieutenant, Miyako was the third seat. When we actually get to see the 13th Division in the story, it's all broken apart, because KAIEN is dead at that point, so there is no lieutenant. Jushiro is still the captain, but he's really sick with his illness, and it's Kiyone and Sentaro that are both like co-third seats that are operating as third seats, but also kind of lieutenants directly under Jushiro. So yeah, KAIEN dying really screwed up the whole, and Miyako dying as well, also kind of screwed up everything there. So everything's going okay for the 13th Division for a while, and you imagine Rukia is starting to feel more at home there. You know, it's just like, okay, now she has friends, she has colleagues. Kiyone and Sentaro are also kind of talking to her, and, you know, they're friends, and it's like Rukia's like, okay, you know, big brother Byakuya, he's not really talking to me at all, and everybody else is kind of looking at me weird, but at least I have this place. At least I have my division that I'm part of. And Rukia was just, I don't even think she was a seated officer at this point. It was even mentioned later that Byakuya, I think, pulled some strings to make it so she wasn't a seated officer, because that way she would be in less danger, and that's the whole reason Byakuya took her in, was to kind of keep her safe. It wasn't until after the secret was out, after the Soul Society arc, that she was finally able to rise through the ranks and eventually become a lieutenant, and eventually become a captain. Oh my god, look at Captain Rukia. She's so glorious. I already kind of did a video on Rukia, and I did a video on Sode no Shirayuki, so I don't know if I'm going to do a video on Rukia included in the 13th Squad's Lieutenant series I'm doing right now. But I probably will, because Rukia is bae. Alright, so at any rate, this video, to be honest with you, if you couldn't figure it out already, this video is going to be like 50% KAIEN, 50% Rukia, if you haven't understood that already. Alright, but everything's doing good for a while there. It's a time of peace. Okay. Then there was the night that shit went south, alright? There's always one night. If you go back into the world of Bleach and the world of anime in general, everything's cool until it isn't cool, right? So, there's a hollow, and its name is Metastasia, and it's causing some problems in the Soul Society. This hollow's a little weird. It has some strange abilities, okay? It kills Miyako, KAIEN's wife, so you can imagine he was probably out for a little bit of blood there. So, his wife is dead, and a bunch of other Shinigami get slaughtered by this thing. And so KAIEN, though, he's kind of level-headed. He's like, well, alright, we're gonna get together, 13th Division, and we're gonna go kill it. Because, you know. And so Jushiro was part of this, Rukia was part of this, KAIEN was part of this, a few other members of the 13th Division were also part of this. They go out one night to find this hollow, which they do. Unfortunately, this hollow has very, very strange abilities. It is able to negate the power of a Zanpakuto, which already is like, red alert, we should retreat, get the hell out of here, and come back later. KAIEN grabs the thing's tentacle and takes out his sword, takes out his Zanpakuto, and is about to release it. Rankle the seas and the skies! Nejibana! And then his sword just explodes. Okay, so if you're a Shinigami, you're a lieutenant, and you go to fight a hollow, and you're about to release your sword, and it just explodes. You're like, huh. Okay, there is something weird with this thing. And then he gets attacked by Metastasia, and the other ability Metastasia possessed was the power to possess Shinigami, or possess, I guess, any other living being, okay? So Metastasia goes into KAIEN. This battle is very disgusting and gory. Way more so in the manga. Like, go and watch this in the anime compared to the manga. Oh my god, there is so much more blood. There's a scene in the manga, and I think it's toned down in the anime too, but there's a scene where, like, Ukitake fights KAIEN when he's possessed, and Ukitake takes out his sword and just, like, basically just like KAIEN's throat, okay? And in the anime, it's toned down quite a bit. In the manga, there's blood and goo, like, everywhere, alright? So at any rate, KAIEN gets possessed by Metastasia, alright? And he's rampaging around, he's got, like, tentacles coming out of his flesh, and he's like, ah! And so, Ukitake tries to fight him for a little. He fights Rukia first, but then Ukitake's like, alright, I'm the captain, I kinda need... My lieutenant has been possessed by a hollow. This is the part of the job I hate, but hey, I'm the captain, this is what I gotta do. I gotta put him out of his misery, so to speak. If I have to kill him, I have to do it. You know, then him being possessed, obviously KAIEN wouldn't want that. So, Ukitake fights him for a little while, but then his illness flares up, and he starts coughing up blood, and he's like, "Ah, now? No! Damn you, author Kubo! You're the one that..." You know, it's just like every time, you know? It's like Whitebeard at Marineford. Whitebeard was about to release his Conqueror's Hockey, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm sick now. Really, Oda right around now? Really, Kubo right now? So Ukitake can't fight. He's like weakened for the moment. And then KAIEN goes back to Rukia, where Rukia has to take out her Zanpakuto, and she just kind of like holds out her sword like she's shaking, because this is literally her sensei, one of her closest friends and colleagues, and her superior in the GOTEI, and it's like all that respect and duty and stuff, like, respect your lieutenant. And she's like, ah! And then he just runs and just... I think it's partly KAIEN's own personality that was kind of fighting through and was like, alright, I need to end this. I can't be going around as a possessed Shinigami slaughtering my men. So I have to do what I have to do here. And he runs and he gets impaled on, you know, Sode no Shirayuki. And so he dies in Rukia's arms. You know, covered, just bathed in blood, getting it all over Rukia. And so he's there and just kind of like, he gets like his personality back at the last minutes of his life. He's crying and it's raining. Of course, it's Kubo. Of course it's raining. And he's just like, it's okay. It's okay. You did what you had to do. It's all right. I entrust my heart to you, Rukia. And then he dies. And then she has to drag back his corpse to Kukaku's place. So, like, Ganju, as a little kid, gets to witness his big brother getting dragged back home by Rukia, and she just kind of, like, drops his body there and leaves. She doesn't really explain much. Ukitake explains all this later to Kukaku. Like, they actually have, like, alright, I should probably explain how your brother died, you know? Well, first off, he was possessed by a hollow. And, Rukia kind of had, you know, she just got, you know, she was there, and they had the sword, and impaled, and that's what happened, so... Sorry about that, but, you know, he died in the line of duty, he was a good man and all that stuff, so Ukitake fills the Shiba clan in on this later, but Rukia, understandably, is racked with guilt for the remainder of her days. You know, even after the Soul Society arc and everything, she goes and apologizes, but she still feels the guilt, you know? This was her friend, this was her lieutenant that, you know, died by her sword, even though if it was like there was really no other way to separate KAIEN and Metastasia. Then we get to Hueco Mundo. We get to the moment that's where KAIEN is there, but he's not really KAIEN, but he is really KAIEN. The thing about that I kind of found interesting was there's a lot of tropes with this in anime where you'll have a villain that has the ability to take on the appearance of other characters, right? Like, you know, like the clone fruit in One Piece, you know, so Bon Clay could take the appearance of Nami, and then Sanji couldn't fight her, you know, that's the situation there. But the thing that makes it unique in Bleach is that Arenero didn't just take the appearance of KAIEN, Arenero very well took the entire mind and memories and personality of KAIEN. So, when Rukia showed up and, you know, Arenero takes off the mask and it's KAIEN's face in the palace, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna pretend to be KAIEN for 5 seconds and then attack. No, Arenero did the whole 9 yard. Arenero was like, hey, Rukia, how you been? It turns out I'm alive! After the battle, I disintegrated and went to Hueco Mundo, and I ended up here. And it turns out that a hollow tried to take me over, but my iron willpower fought through. It's like, it's like KAIEN's memories, KAIEN's voice, KAIEN's mannerisms, KAIEN's personality. It's like all spot on because it is. What Kubo is really going for there is what makes a person who they are is not their physical appearance. It's not their memory or anything that could be stored in like the brain itself. No, it's your heart. That's what it was, your heart. Not your physical beating heart, but like your heart. I want to say soul, but souls are also very, they're like, souls are an actual thing in Bleach, but like in more of an ambiguous way of who you really are, it's your heart. And KAIEN entrusted his heart to Rukia, okay? So Rukia understands that and understands it's not really KAIEN, it's Aranjero. And of course, Aranjero, eventually Rukia breaks the light, breaks the wall and the light shines through. And then so the illusion is destroyed. And so we get to see Aranjero for who they really are, which are heads floating in a tube. Something to mention, by the way, about that. So I did the Espada series earlier this year where I was going through all the different hollows, right? And in the Aranjero video, I talked about, you know, it's possible that maybe Aranjero were like conjoined twins when they were born, and then maybe they died, and that's how they ended up the way they are in, you know, their hollow form as like Espada. But then I was reading the comments of that video, and a lot of people were like, you know what, the conjoined twin thing makes sense, but they went even further with it, and people were like, what if Aranjero Arurueri were like fetuses that died in the womb? And it's like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. Why they were like in the tube, in the liquid, and being taken out of that liquid immediately killed them. Because when Rukia shattered the dome, they died, right? So it's like they might have been like unborn fetuses that died there, and then they became hollows. That's really messed up, but that makes a lot of sense for what Aranjero Arurueri really were, you know, okay? Well, anyway, the battle continues, and even with, you know, also because, you know, has KAIEN's body and soul and mind, also has KAIEN's Zanpakuto, so that's the first time we actually get to see Nejibana was in the hands of Aranjero, and because has all the muscle memory and all of the memories themselves from training and everything, KAIEN would have probably, the way we saw Aranjero use Nejibana was probably the similar way that KAIEN would use Nejibana. So Nejibana takes the form of a trident. This is the only trident I have, but hey, how many tridents do you own? I'm like, man, I'm talking about KAIEN Shiba today. I'm gonna need a trident. Man, I only have one. Oh, alright, this is Katakuri's Mogura from One Piece, but whatever. So it becomes a trident, kind of like the weapon of Poseidon, right? And you got one end of the trident, and then the other end is like a spiral, like corkscrew kind of dealy, and water is just spewing out of it. It's a water-type Zanpakuto, so water is just spewing out of the top part and out of the bottom like a sink, and it's just spewing water. And so the effect of it is that every time Nejibana like hits you, it's the effect of like a crashing wave. Like, so it's like way more power than just like a spear or a trident hitting you or piercing you or whatever. It's like crashing waves slamming into the opponent. And KAIEN, I'm sure, trained with this extensively, so his like battle prowess with this, like he's like a pole-arm fighter, but he's like dancing and like crashing into you like multiple hits, and eventually you're gonna get knocked down, and then the waves, like the water is washing over you, and then he eventually, you know, deals the finishing blow or something. So we didn't get to see Nejibana in action for too long. It was only just that one fight with Rukia and Aranjero, but it is one of the more interesting Zanpakuto of the lieutenants, definitely. Up there with Renji's, there's a lot of different applications you could utilize with this, like definitely, absolutely. Just the shape was unique, and the extra bonus of the water attacks, you know, that was really cool, honestly. Maybe he could do like water jets and like cut like through like the enemy and stuff like that, like those really concentrated water jets that we have like in our, like that can cut diamond. Could have been something like that. Never got to see his bankai or even alluded to his bankai. I don't think in any sort of like data book or any like Brave Souls. I don't think he even ever went there. Maybe someday. Maybe we'll get like a Bleach Brave Soul or like video game that has KAIEN's bankai. Why not just keep throwing bankais? That's what you gotta do, right? But it was a really cool Zanpakuto. I imagine his bankai, because I just, you know, the second he released it and we had like a Poseidon vibe going on there, that would be cool if he was like decked out in like god gear, you know, in his bankai, and maybe he could like basically just summon a small ocean wherever he's at. Like no matter where he's standing, it just gets turned into water, and then he could like summon up like hands or something out of the water to like grab the opponent, or like water soldiers to fight alongside him or something, kind of like Rose's bankai. That would be cool, like, right? Like, so let me know below on some ideas for Nejibana's bankai. Nejibana, translated from Japanese, is a type of flower, which I really cannot pronounce, but twisted flower in the viz. Let's just go with that. It's a type of orchid, and this is the flower it's based off of there. So that kind of resembles like the tip of Nejibana, like the bottom half of the trident is like a spear, and it's like a twisted coil, corkscrew kind of thing, and water comes out of that too. So that's probably the reference, like the twisted flower and things like that there, right? But yeah, so Rukia, I mean, KAIEN's story, we get to see it in a flashback, but his story kind of lives on in Rukia. You know, Rukia coming to terms with what she did. Rukia going to Kukaku's after so many years and apologizing, which was really hard for her, because it's like, you know, Shinigami live a lot longer than humans. So this was not something that just happened to Rukia like 1 or 2 years ago and she just couldn't bring herself to apologize. This happened decades ago, right? And it's you know, they don't age, but time is still time. So Rukia's like, man, I've always wanted to go and apologize to Kukaku and Ganju and tell them what happened and say I'm sorry, but it's just, you know, it's been so long. I don't know if it's like they're gonna think that I'm like, oh, it took you 50 years to show up and apologize for killing my brother, you know? It's so she was really just, you know, conflicted with that. But after the Soul Society arc and after she learned about her past with Hisana, and then Byakuya told her some stuff, and then after everything that went down with Aizen and everything, I think Rukia just finally realized, well, I almost died like a lot. And all this other crap's going on. I'm gonna finally do it. I'm gonna finally go apologize. You know, I bet that's probably what the one thing she was thinking of in the Senzai-Q tower. She was probably thinking in the Senzai-Q, you know, I'm gonna be executed, but if I ever manage to get out of here, I'm gonna apologize. And then she runs into Ganju, and Ganju has a vendetta against her for a little while there. And so I bet she was thinking up there, like, man, if I can somehow get out of here. Now, on the off chance Ichigo and his friends break into the Soul Society, and Ichigo learns Bankai, and he flies up on the Sokyoku, and he grabs me, and he saves me at the last second, and throws me down to Renji, and I manage to get away from this, only to be recaptured by Tozen, and then Aizen shows up, and then rips a freaking Hogyoku out of my chest, and then seals me back up, and then I manage to recover from that? First thing I'm gonna do is go over to Kukaku's place and apologize for KAIEN. That's a long time coming, right? So she does, and then even after that, it's with Aranyero's fight, which is kind of like the final moment there where she realizes, you know, you're not KAIEN. KAIEN left his heart with me. All right, and so she kind of moves on from that and kind of remembers KAIEN, you know, fondly. And, you know, if a spirit of KAIEN appears over Rukia, I'm sure he would be smiling just like this and just be like, good on you, Rukia. You did the right thing. And then, you know, don't trouble over me and everything like that. It's what happened has happened, and I'm always going to be with you. And eventually eventually Rukia takes KAIEN's position as the lieutenant during the Fullbring arc after the time skip. And then at the end of the story, after Jushiro unfortunately dies with the Mimi Hage and everything, Rukia becomes the new 13th Division captain. So it all worked out swimmingly. I don't think we ever found out who the lieutenant was, though, under Rukia. That was never explained. Kiyone Kotetsu, Isane's younger sister, becomes the lieutenant of Squad 4 after the time skip, at the epilogue of Bleach. So Kiyone leaves her post as 3rd seat of 13th and becomes the lieutenant of 4th. And so I guess Sentaro is left. Sentaro is the son of the former lieutenant of Squad 7 under Love, Sentaro Kotsubaki. And so maybe he is the new lieutenant of Squad 13, but we never really find that out by the end of the story. Renji is still under the 6th Division, under Byakuya and all that. So yeah, but I think the story there for KAIEN, I think it worked really well. Even though we didn't get to see much of KAIEN, I thought they were going to be maybe touching upon it a little bit during the last arc, because we were like finding all this stuff out about Isshin and the Shiba clan, so maybe they were going to touch upon KAIEN a little bit more there. But KAIEN, it didn't need it. It's just like, it already had, like, we had the flashback with Rukia and KAIEN during Soul Society, and then we had the apology, and then we had the whole thing of Hueco Mundo. I think that wrapped up KAIEN and Rukia's story pretty well, as much as it could have been. I really can't think of that and think, I mean, you could always say, well, we never got to see his bankai, you know, that's always the default a lot of times, like, but we never got to see Nanao's bankai in the story. I'm like, well, I don't think Kubo really was going to show us that anyway, but you could say that. But other than that, I think it wrapped up that whole story in a nice little bow. So there you go. That's the story of KAIEN Shiba, the mighty disciple of Poseidon. Okay, so Moving on, who am I going to talk about next? I don't know. Let's just do the same thing. Let's just do the round and round and round the poster goes. Where it stops, nobody knows. Right here. This is Shuhei's, this is Kazashini's hilt. Kazashini's guard. I guess we'll talk about Kazashini. Now, hold on. We already did that. Although I could make a video about all the Zanpakuto after this. Why not, right? Like, every Zanpakuto in the story. We got... Oh, it was right here. It was right here. It was close to Rangiku. It was close to Rangiku. Talking about Rangiku. Starting off 2021 with the Lieutenant of Squad 10, Rangiku Matsumoto. And there's actually a lot of stuff involving her. Like, a lot. I'm not making a boob joke right now. Like, read Can't Fear Your Own World. We find stuff about her there. Her past with Gin, Toshiro, Ishin. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there with Rangiku. Okay, so I'm really excited for this. So yeah, she's coming up next, 4th video. Catch you back here next time for that. Also boobs.